Hi, I'm Aaron Fuchs, the Vice Principal of Schreiber Public School. Tonight we're hosting a generative AI for seniors workshop here at the school through Superior Greenstone's Community Use of Schools program. It allows us to partner with community partners and in this case, educate our community about some innovative technology coming your way soon.
Hey everyone, it's Andrew Brown. I'm the founder of Exam Pro. We have a technology center, or we're working to open a technology center here in Schreiber, and we're starting to do community programs, which is providing tech training for various different levels of education. Today we are doing GenAI for seniors, teaching folks all about GenAI for practical use cases. Okay, great. So, hi everybody, I'm Andrew Brown, and that's the other Andrew. If folks don't know us, we're the folks that bought St. Andrew's Church. One of our community goals is that we want to convert part of that into a technology center. That goal is just to try to bring more technology education here. I would love to try to attract more technologists to the town, just for our benefit. But yeah, I've been working in tech for the last 15 years, so has the other Andrew. I've been focused on ed tech, and the other Andrew's been focused in global IT systems. Just before we get started, I'm just curious, what kind of phones does everybody have? Can I get a show of hands of if people have Apple phones, or, okay, so 99%, all right. Anybody have an Android phone? Okay, so good. All right. So today I have an Android phone here, and the reason I was asking that question is that maybe this is a way that you could get familiar with AI today if there's an opportunity after the presentation and demos. How many people here have heard of GenAI, specifically GenAI? Okay, good.
Yes.
All right, and for those that have heard of it, how many have used GenAI? Okay, cool. And has anybody heard of Meta AI or? Okay, great. So if you've heard of Meta AI, then you're already Okay, I guess the question is, how many have used Meta AI? Okay, great. So that's going to be good. We're going to have a lot of good educational content here today. So this course is broken up into 3 sections. The first part I want to cover is just general knowledge to get you familiar with the terms. There is a lot of technical content in here, but we have it in the printouts here to review. If I have time, I might record these materials separately. So if you want to go through this at your own pace afterwards, if this information is too fast or too technical, you can do so later on. And we have everyone's numbers, so maybe there's some way we can distribute that, or I'll just put it publicly in the Facebook page. So there's general knowledge. I'll have a section on harms and safeguards, so the things you have to be worried about and things that you can do to prevent those. And then benefits and applications. So benefits would be things that you can do with GenAI, and examples of what we can actually practically do with our phones or our computers and what that might cost. And so yeah, I'd say at the end of this course, you should be AI ready and off to the races working with GenAI. So probably the first thing we might want to talk about before we talk about GenAI is what is AI. So AI stands for artificial intelligence. And AI is a computer that performs a task requiring human-like intelligence. So I put extra emphasis on human-like because it's not human intelligence, it's something that emulates it. And so AI is the latest wave of popular technology being applied in all industries. It is coming, and it's going to be in all of our appliances and all of our new phones. So it's a great opportunity to get a head start learning about that. If you ever see these 3 little sparkles, that is the symbol for GenAI. So if you're in your phone on apps or your desktop, that's the logo that's being used a lot. And so you know that that's a suggestion that's AI or GenAI. When you hear about AI in the news, they make it sound like this really grandiose thing that it's going to be able to replicate exactly what a human can do. And so there's just very large tech companies out there that are hyping it, so to speak, because that's going to increase their revenues. But the thing is, there's 2 different kinds of AI, and we have artificial narrow intelligence and we have artificial general intelligence. So whatever you hear about those doomsday AI scenarios, or the ones where they're like hyper intelligent, they're talking about AGI. And AGI is something that's at this point, we don't know if it's even possible yet. So it's more kind of like science fiction, what they're talking about, because the capabilities of trying to do AGI is very, very hard. So we're going to be focusing on artificial narrow intelligence, ANI, or sometimes they call it artificial shallow intelligence. But yeah, it's not important to remember those terms, but just understand that when people talk about AI, there might be two different categories of those things. So what do we mean when we say like human-like intelligence? Because AI doesn't exactly think. It doesn't reason, and I put an asterisk there because it does some kind of reasoning, but it doesn't reason like a human. And AIs are not true intelligence. So, you know, my friend Rolla, who's a neuroscientist in Montreal, you know, she would argue that they're not truly intelligent. And we'll talk about what they're doing, which is they're just doing at-scale pattern matching, and so they appear intelligent. So imagine you had, you know, a lot of monkeys at a typewriter, like infinite amount of monkeys. Eventually, their output could resemble something, right? And this is a simplification of what they're doing, but in the same sense, it is what is happening. Is that you just have a lot of monkeys at typewriters. AI is not a new thing. So AI has been around since 1957, and the first implementation was the Mark I perceptron. I don't know what they built this for. I think it was for like roads or something. But as you can see there in that illustration, there's a really big machine, and there's a person that's hooking up each individual connection. So if you know the human brain, our brain is made up of synapses and neurons. I think the synapses are the connections, and the neurons are those things. And that is what AI, or the AI that we're talking about, is based upon. And we call them neural networks. So the way we represent the size or intelligence of these neural networks or these artificial brains is this idea of parameters. So parameters represents the number of, you could say, neurons or nodes. And so in theory, if you have more of these nodes, then the bigger the brain is. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's smarter, but it's a similar concept. So if we're talking about the human brain has 100 trillion to 1 quadrillion connections or nodes. But the largest ML models to date, they only get up to 1 to 10 trillion. And these things run on like supercomputers powered by nuclear power, right? So these are not things that are accessible to any of us. And they're probably not run very often. They're more experimental. But the models that we have, or the AI that we're using, is 70 billion parameters. So if you've heard of Meta AI is 70 billion parameters. It has 70 billion nodes. And you can see that's very far off from the human brain. But despite not having as many connections, it can do some very powerful stuff. So let's talk about what is Gen AI. So Gen AI stands for Generative Artificial Intelligence, and it's an AI that is specialized to generate out content. And so if anybody saw the videos that I produced, that's Gen AI because I'm using AI to produce something. And that thing that we're producing could be images, videos, audio, or text. There are other things that it can produce, but those are the main 4 that it produces. And so this is an example. That image there on the left-hand side is not a real pie. I generated it. I entered into a prompt that said, make me an image of a pie with 1 slice removed, and that's what I got. Another thing that you'll hear me say again and again and again is models. And so when we're talking about Gen AI, there's some kind of engine or machine that makes it work, and that's called a machine learning model. We just call it model for short. And that's the thing that takes some kind of input, so text, audio, image, and it outputs something. And you really should think of it as like the engine of a car. It's part of a more complex system, but there is that key thing that is producing or taking that input and producing an output. So for AI computers, you can, to utilize Gen AI or AI in general, you can use it in the cloud. So if you've heard of Meta AI, that's in the cloud, right? It's not on your phone, it's not on your computer, you're going over the internet to access it. But there is an emerging advancement in this technology. And so the next generation of phones and tablets and computers will be able to run these models locally. And so there's these new specialized chips, and they're specifically designed for running AI models. And so, you might want to invest in one of these if they come out in the next year or two. But yeah, any AI model or Gen AI that you've heard of has all been over the internet. So these local models are going to be a really big thing. And you'll start seeing, like if you go into, even right now, if you go into Staples or Best Buy, you'll start seeing AI PCs, and they're specifically talking about this fancy new chip that's inside of them. And the reason why you want to think about local AI is for security advantages. And we'll talk about that when we cover our harms and safeguards section here. So another thing that you'll need to be familiar with is what is a bot or an agent. Okay, so if you're ever talking to a bot or an agent, that's exactly what it is. It's something that can respond with natural conversation, just like a human. So here's an example of a bot or an agent. So I'm asking, can you suggest a sugar-free recipe? And it produces a result. Does anybody here have like an Alexa or a Google Nest in their home? Okay, and so that's kind of like this, but those ones are not as intelligent, so they don't have the same means to reason. They're basically like a big if-else statement, and they can't. I don't know, but anyway, how many people get frustrated with their Alexa or Google Nest device?
The Nest I do.
Yeah.
I got rid of it.
Yeah, they're very frustrating. So I'll probably demo this later, but on my phone I have ChatGPT, and it has a voice feature just like it, but it's unbelievably much better at doing its job. But yeah, I have like 10 Alexas in my house, and they drive me crazy. So how does Gen AI actually work? Well, the way it works is, specifically when we're talking about text or you're having a conversation with one of these agents, is that it will generate out each word, and it's trying to predict what the next word is. So when I said earlier, you have to think about, it's like a bunch of monkeys typing on a typewriter. It's literally just trying to guess the next word. And it does look at the words around it, but that's why I say it's not truly intelligent. And the reason why it's able to choose the right word is that the way these models are trained, or they're taught to do this, is they're giving like tons and tons of data. And when I say tons and tons of data, I mean, imagine all the libraries, all the data that's on the internet, and so it has enough examples to figure it out. So this quote here, "Action speaks louder than words." The reason it can do it is because at some point they scanned that book, that text, and it was given to the model, and it has that information, right? So that's why it was able to determine that. But there is one issue with these models, is the fact that the training data, a lot of what it's trained on is trained on social media data. Has anyone ever found any kind of social media data or social media information divisive, or what's the word I'm looking for, Mako? Inflammatory or strange? And so the problem with that is that when you feed that data into these models, they end up having the same biases and problems that we encounter there. But we'll talk about that more when we get to our harms section. One big issue, it's not a big issue if you know how to work around it, but one big issue with agents is because they're not intelligent and they do not reason, when they're presented with information they do not know, so it's not in their library of knowledge, they don't have any examples they can work with, they'll just make things up, right? And so we call that hallucinations, right? So earlier on we were talking about the Mark I perceptron. That was that big machine built in the 1950s to simulate the human brain. So here in Meta AI, I'm asking that question. So when was the first Mark I perceptron invented? And it gave me the wrong answer. So it was invented in 1947, not 1951, but here in the text it's telling me 1951. So there are ways to mitigate that, but we'll talk about that in a moment. But there is this fine text that's under here, and it says messages are generated by AI and may be inaccurate or inappropriate. So almost all of them have this label, and it's just it's a known thing. And so you just have to be good about double checking the work. But these tools are still really useful if you have domain knowledge in something particular that you can spot the problems with it. So how do we get them not to hallucinate? Well, surprisingly, all you have to do is just tell them not to make things up. If you tell them, seriously, if you tell them not to make things up, then they know that. Or, tell them to think step by step. So sometimes, you say, okay, think about this problem step by step and then double check your reasoning. And that helps it a lot. And you can tell it to make a table of comparisons. You can tell it to summarize the information. If there's information wrong, you can ask it, are you sure if that appears wrong? And it might try to correct it. In the last 3-4 years, these models have gone from being really dumb to really smart. And that sounds like they would produce better results. But the problem that data scientists or data engineers are finding is that the more parameters, the bigger their brains are, the more confidence they have in the wrong answers. So it's strange. So smaller models actually perform better. But anyway, there's a way to mitigate that. And some ways of this is the way you prompt it, the way you write to it. There are 4 really big brands right now. These are the major players, which is Meta AI. This is a free tool that everybody can use. All the other ones have free tiers, but they also have paid tiers, kind of like a Netflix subscription. But they can be worth it depending on what you do with them. We have Claude. Claude is probably the most popular one among the tech industry, just because its reasoning is really, really accurate, but it only does text. ChatGPT, this one was the first one to become extremely popular. So if you're ever watching the news, you're most likely going to see ChatGPT. It's the most capable, but there is some questionable practices with this company in terms of safety and trust with the way they release new features and things like that. Google has their own called Google Gemini, and it's really good, and we can talk about some of that stuff. So that's the general knowledge section. Does anybody have any questions about this part?
A comment you made.
Yep.
You could tell them. Now, them refers to, like, I think of them as a human being, and they, again, a human being. I'm a retired electrician by trade. In the early '80s, I think '81.
Yep.
I took a course on fiber optic because it was coming down the pipe.
Yep.
And it made me realize then, technology is going so fast that what will be invented tomorrow is outdated today already. And here it is again.
Well, and I just bought a new computer. How much did my new computer cost? Too much? Really, really expensive. And then yesterday there was it's the electronics conference. It's where they release all the new stuff, and they announced a new device that is 1,000 times more powerful. And the thing that I bought was just like, it's not even old. So yeah, it's moving really, really quickly right now. But yeah, that's the general knowledge area. But I think it's probably more fun to look at practical examples. And so, one thing that we can do with AI is we can do colorization. You can do all sorts of photo manipulation. So that's an old image that folks might have saw in the hometowner's page. And I just said, here, I literally just upload the image and it colored it for me, right? And that only cost me less than a penny to run. So not all of these things are free, but if you have a bit more deeper knowledge, you can utilize these things at extremely, extremely low cost, or if not free. I did animate this video, and somebody actually had a question about this photo. They said, can anyone identify the make, model, and year of the vehicle in this photo? Right, so that was Colleen asking it. And so I went over to ChatGPT, and I just gave it the image. I said, what kind of vehicle is it? And it went through, and it just started reasoning and saying, like, oh, it could be this for this reason, that. And it determined that it was a 1955, 56 Dodge Regent. And then I went through all the information to verify it was correct, and it was correct. So in that regard, it's extremely useful. I actually used ChatGPT to help me change my tires. So I'm not the most inclined when it comes to vehicles, but I really had to get my tires changed. But I was able to use ChatGPT, put it on video, and go under my vehicle and say, where do I mount the jack and things like that. And it was able to look and tell me exactly where. So I was able to do it, and my tires have not fallen off yet.
The next question.
But another example might be if you have, like, let's say something that is handwritten, you can upload it and it can read it. So this is kind of impressive, like OCR technology, the ability to scan something and extract the letters has been around since the early 90s. But they've always been kind of hit and miss. Like sometimes they scan the letters wrong. But the latest models now are super easy. You take a photo with your phone and you just say, can you get the text in this image? And you can see that this, like if you tried to scan this with an old scanner, it'd have no luck getting it. But here they got 100% of it. So those are like a few little examples that we have. But I think it might be fun to jump in and show some practical examples. So maybe the first thing we can take a look at is Meta AI. So Meta AI, you can access it at meta.ai. Okay. And so this is a free model. And it's made by Facebook. Now, I just want to say that I'm not sure what they do with your data when you put it into this particular one. Facebook in particular is known for having some interesting practices. Would you agree?
Yes, shady
Okay.
practices.
Andrew, are you on Facebook?
No.
Okay. Is there any particular reason why? So, I mean, like, if you're in the tech industry, a lot of folks are a bit concerned about some of their practices. So, like recently, actually, this was a couple days ago, but Meta announced two things. They announced that they're no longer doing fact checking on materials. They said that it's just getting in the way. It was a really not good reason as to why they would stop doing fact checking. But the other thing is that they released AI influencers. So it's people that look like real people and like images and videos and stuff like that. And there was a huge backlash. And so they actually had to remove them because the backlash was so large. But you can kind of see that Meta is pushing the boundaries and trying to intermix AI, and it's not even clear what is AI and what's not. And in the past, it's been questionable if what they do with our data and whether they're using it as their training data. So we'll talk about this in the harms, but whenever you use these things, you never, ever, ever, ever want to put your personal information in, right? Like your phone number, banking information, anything like that. Now, if you have one of these newer devices and you know that it's using local AI, that's less of an issue. But when it's in the cloud, especially with Meta AI, I would not trust them with sensitive data. Now, if it's something like, if you want a recipe, right, we can do that here. And even here, they suggest like a custom holiday cookie recipe. So I can go here and say, I want a recipe. And I did this earlier. It was like that is sugar-free. Sugar-free. I want to, I want it to be cake, right? And we can go ahead and hit enter, and it'll produce a result, right? So this service is, again, 100% absolutely free. So here we get a result, right? And it's producing it. And I've actually made some, and they're okay. So you know what I mean? Like if you question like whether it's doing a good job, but it's generally accurate. But if you have a background baking, you can generally tell if it's making mistakes or not. And so here it has a sugar-free vanilla cake recipe. One thing you can do is you can tell it to change the format. So if I don't like the format of it, I can say, provide this recipe as a table with one side the instructions and the other side the recipe. And I'll see if it goes ahead and does that. So now it produces a table. So you can tell it to format in all various ways. Meta AI, like these models here, we call them AI-powered assistants because they are capable of many different things. So I said earlier that these things are powered by a model, which is their engine. And these engines are usually specialized to do a very specific thing. So there's one that's really good at taking in text, and outputting text like this recipe. But then there's models that are very good at taking a text and producing an image. So when you're using Meta AI, it actually has multiple engines underneath, but you don't know that. You just interface with it. And so as you work with these different agents, this is an agent or a bot, you'll notice they have different capabilities. So I think Meta AI can produce images. So I could say, can you make me a image of this recipe, right? Imagine you want to make a book. You can go ahead and do this. And actually on Facebook, I keep seeing an ad for, it's a book where if the world ended and you had to rebuild everything from scratch, then it has all the information in it. And the book looks beautiful, but I can tell it's all AI generated, and it's kind of a scam because if you bought the book, the content of it is not high quality, right? So here it's trying to generate 4 images. It probably did generate them, but it's showing that they're not there. But on the right-hand side, I'm just gonna hit regenerate and let it have another try here. Okay. And it should produce images. But the ones that are, like the images that are produced here are not always the best. And so you have to kind of play around with these tools and figure out what works best for you. But it's really not deciding to generate out an image here. But I know it can do them. Come on, you can do it, Meta AI. Anyway, we'll give it some time to generate out. It is struggling here a bit. Let's go take a look at another example. So I said that there's more than one of these products. So this is Meta AI. But you can also install them on your phone. So I'm going to go over to my phone here. I might have to just reconnect it. And yeah, I think, yep, there's my phone. And so I have a couple that are installed here. So if I go over to my little AI folder, I have 3 that are installed: Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini. As I said earlier, ChatGPT is one of the most popular ones. Okay. And so it has a text interface here. What's a little bit different about ChatGPT compared to Meta AI? Meta AI is just one model. You don't have any other options. It's just you interface with this one. But once you start getting these free to paid ones, they actually have more than one model or version in them here. And so if I click up here, nope, not there. If I click here, it's going to actually list more than one model. So right now I'm using GPT-4o. We have O1, O1 Mini, GPT-4o Mini, GPT-4. Why is there so many different named ones? As they're building out these agents or models, they're making different versions of them, right? So maybe 6 months or 9 months later, they release a new version of it. And so this is the history of versions that were created. Older ones are not necessarily bad, they just might have different capabilities, and that's why they keep a bunch around. And so they're there. But actually in the handout that I have a little list here where we talk about AI-powered assistants, where I have all the 4 links if you want to go utilize these later. But in this particular section, I'm just going to zoom in here just to show you what I mean about this modeling and versioning of them. So, I said earlier there's the 4 big brands. We have Anthropic, OpenAI, which is actually ChatGPT, Meta, which is Facebook and Google. But you can kind of think of these kind of like a car. So I said like make, model, year, and features, right? So right now we're using ChatGPT. So the make or brand is OpenAI. The model itself is ChatGPT, and you can say the year or version is 4o Mini. Okay. If we go back over to here, we could ask the same question if we want. To hear this one never decided to generate out. It's not unusual for that to happen with Llama. It is free, by the way, so it's not surprising. But we can go ahead here and enter this in here as well, right? So we'll go ahead and do this. And we're getting some kind of similar result. I'm going to go ahead and ask it to do the same thing. And as before, and generate an image, and we'll see if we get it. Okay, so I'll go back over to here. And we will say, can you make an image of this recipe? Okay. We'll hit enter. And it should generate one out. Whether it's a good image or not is a different story, but it will generate out an image for us. There we go. And so there is our image. Right? It's okay. Like to me, I can tell can everyone tell that is Gen AI generated? Does that look real or fake? Fake?
Yeah.
To me, it looks fake, right? So there are specialized services out there. So like if I wanted a really realistic image, I'd actually have to re-sign up for this. I didn't have time today to re-sign up for it, but I'll log in to show you here. But there's one. This is known by everyone in the tech industry that this is the best one here. But this is Midjourney. And so I said earlier that there's models, there's engines that are specialized to really produce good results. And this one here can produce hyper-realistic photos, right? So, you know, you have to kind of use a mix of things to get the results that you want. So I think Midjourney, like their subscription is like $10 a month. They do have a free usage somewhere, but right now it's not showing me. But you can see like the quality of the image, like this one's pretty good. Does that look more realistic? Or does that look professional? Yeah. So you got to play around with it, but yeah, these ones you can't expect these all-in-one ones to do the best results, but they can get you there to a certain degree. What I really like about ChatGPT, I said earlier how I was using it to help fix my vehicle. It has an audio button down here below, and so that's going to allow us to talk to it just like Alexa. And I actually used it recently. I had Andrew over with his wife, and we were playing Hearts. They wanted to play. What was the game you wanted to play?
I can't say it.
I keep trying to embarrass him, but it's you know. But there's a card game that is more popular amongst the younger folk. But I really like Hearts, and so I forced everyone to play Hearts. We didn't remember the rules to the game, and so I could type, but I find it a pain. So I'd rather ask ChatGPT. So I press the audio button here. Hey ChatGPT, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How about you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm just teaching folks about Gen AI. Hey, I got a question. Can you help me with the rules with Hearts? I'm playing with a bunch of friends, and I don't remember the rule about when hearts are broken in the game. What are the conditions for that?
Ah, nice. Teaching Gen AI sounds like a blast. As for hearts, the rule about breaking hearts is pretty simple. Hearts are broken when a heart card is played for the first time in the game. This can only happen under these conditions. 1. A player can't leave with a heart until hearts are broken. 2. Hearts are broken when someone plays a heart card during a trick.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry.
Sorry.
To play a heart.
ChatGPT? ChatGPT, thank you. But normally, like as you're talking, it will pick up, and you can interrupt it usually. But there was asking me to tap, and usually doesn't ask me to do that. I'm not sure why. But it should have transcribed exactly what we said. So here it says, "I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How about you?" And so it's the whole conversation there. What's really interesting about this is, again, coming back to the engine of the model. I said that some, take in text and output text. This one in particular, when we press that button, there's a special engine or model within ChatGPT. And it's audio in and it's audio out. And the reason why that is really important is that it's not taking the audio and then turning it into text and then trying to understand the text. It's literally understanding the audio. And so it not only just understands what I said, but the intonation that I said it, and all the other environmental factors. And so that's why it's so much more powerful in one regards to Alexa and stuff like that. But it's really, really useful. It has a video feature as well. So like it's somewhere on here. I don't turn it on very often. But yeah, actually it's here. So, hey ChatGPT. Oh, you know what? I think I can't show it because in ChatGPT, we said earlier there's like different kinds of models. And if I go all the way back to the top here, I click the name here. I think it's in, there we go, it's not, maybe all the way to the top, all the way to the top. Am I going to the top here? Oh, I'll just scroll my phone. Oh, they're down here, okay. But the model I think that is able to do video is O1. And so, O1, I already used it up. So I was only able to talk to it like 40, 50 times. And it says, hey, you used up your O1, so now you got to use the other models. And you got to wait a few days and you can use it. So it's not like unlimited use of these things. Because to actually run these things are really computationally expensive. And so, yeah, when you use it, you have limited use of the really intelligent ones. So you have to kind of like manage what you want to ask the smart ones. But if you have a task that's easier, then you'll switch to a simpler one. Also over here, like we saw another one called Mini. And so the difference between GPT-4o and GPT-4 Mini is this one's way faster, but it's dumber. So you're making a trade, right? So if you're doing something like summarizing, it's really good at that. But if you're asking it like reasoning, like reason something, it's going to make mistakes. And a really funny one, I don't know if it's that funny, but a really interesting one that the tech industry really picked up on was the fact that if you ask these models like how many R's are there in strawberry, it would give you the wrong number, and then you tell it, no, that's not right. And it would argue with you saying like, no, I'm right. And so this comes back to when I talked about models, when they have big brains, they think they're really smart. And so the difference between ChatGPT 4o and ChatGPT o1 is that o1 is doing those extra steps to help it do extra reasoning so that it doesn't double down and think that it's right. So that's a key difference between that. But that's ChatGPT. And so, for me, I personally pay for ChatGPT and Claude. But I think like if you were to pay for one, and I think it's like $20 a month, if you were to pay for one outside of Meta AI, this one is really capable in a lot of regards. Actually, when I put my kid to bed, she really likes talking to ChatGPT. And when I took her to the dentist, she was really afraid of it. But the voice of ChatGPT is so soothing and friendly that we were able to get her. She had a little cavity, so was able to calm her down. So that was really useful. But of course, if you have it with kids, you have to monitor it because you don't want to just give them something that they can ask any questions. So really, there's no parental controls on these things. Like, there's no ChatGPT for kids. So you have to be very, very careful with that. But anyway, let's go take a look at some other examples. There's another one called Claude. And so Claude, it should be better well known because it's so good, but they just are really, really bad at marketing. They bought like a big billboard in New York, and it was like so vague. It didn't say what the product did at all, but it's just known for having really, really good reasoning. So I'm trying to think of something that I could ask ChatGPT that it wouldn't do a very good job on, that maybe Claude would do a better job on. So let's go back over to our Meta AI example, and we can ask it to produce a recipe as well, okay? And notice here that it has a drop down. So a lot of the other ones that are paid, they'll have multiple ones. So it has Claude 3.5 Sonnet, it has Claude 3 Opus, and then it has another one called Haiku, right? So, if you need daily tasks, like they're, again, summarization, really small things, you can do that. But 3.5 Sonnet right now is considered the most intelligent model in the Gen AI space. So I'm going to go ahead and enter it, and we'll see what we get. You should probably get something really similar back. Okay. And so we get a result back, but I'm pretty sure Claude can generate out documents. I'm going to see if we'll give it a go. It also has this option down below. So like one thing I don't like about ChatGPT is it just writes too much. I don't want to read a whole lot. So I can go here and just choose concise. And I'm going to try this again and see what happens. Now, it might not be able to make it any more concise because it is as concise as it can be. But we'll go ahead and try this again. So now it's on concise, right? We'll go ahead and hit enter. We'll see what we get. Is that shorter? I'm not sure. So this is probably not a really good example. Maybe something that would be better is earlier on, I had that image of that vehicle. Let's see if we can identify that vehicle again. So I have a folder over here in my on my desktop, and it is there, right? So what is the vehicle in that photo, right? So we'll go over first to Meta AI. Let's see if Meta AI can do it. So basically, we're just comparing their capabilities between them, right? So I'm going to go here. I'm going to upload the image. I'm pretty sure that it can look at images. Let's take a look. We're going to zoom out here. No, so Meta AI does not allow you to upload images. It can generate out images, but apparently it cannot upload images. Let's go over to ChatGPT, which I think Yeah, I have one open over here as well. It's in the desktop and on the phone. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to upload this image. I'm going to tell it what kind of vehicle, or let's say what is the make, model of the vehicle in the center of the photo. Now, if you do make spelling mistakes, I'm dyslexic, so I really make spelling mistakes. You probably saw spelling mistakes in my slides. I don't even see them. ChatGPT can work around those problems, no problem. So here it says, from the photo, the vehicle in the center appears in the 1955 Dodge Regent, a similar Dodge model from that era. Now, when I originally asked it, and I showed you that screenshot, it actually generated like this much text. And for some reason, this time around, it's not producing the same amount. In fact, I have the history here on the left-hand side, so I might be able to actually find it. So, I'm taking a look here, see if I can try to find it. I don't know where it is. But anyway, all I know is that the text was really large. And so if we were to try this again, maybe we'll try it with another model, right? It's really, really working with these things is fiddling with them till they work. We'll go ahead and say, what is the make, model of the vehicle in this photo? Let's see if it can figure that out. Okay, so it's just giving me still a small summary. So that's not going to be a good example. And also, I just remembered, I don't think can Claude take photos? Let's take a look here. So go over to here, and you can attach images here. Let's go take a look, and bring in over an image. Say, can you identify the make and model of the car in the photo? And notice I spelled photo wrong, it doesn't care. And here it says a 1955 Chevrolet Bel Air sedan. So is the answer different?
Yeah.
Okay, so who was right? And so that's why they say to tell it to do step-by-step reasoning. So I'm not sure if that will produce a better result, but we'll start this conversation over. A lot of times I'll just start a conversation over. Another thing that you should know about these things is the longer the conversation gets, the more work it takes to produce the result. And the reason why is that it's always pulling in the entire conversation. So as the conversation gets larger, the more resources it takes to produce a result. And the reason why that's an issue with Claude is that as you use Claude, the conversation gets longer. It'll actually warn you. It'll say, hey, you're running out of credits. It doesn't tell you how much you have, but it'll just tell you when you're getting low. And it'll say, maybe you want to start the conversation over. It's because the conversation is getting too long. So I'm going to go ahead here and try this again. We'll say, what is the make and model of the car? Please do step-by-step reasoning to determine it, right? So we'll go ahead and do that. And we do have it on concise, so that might not be a good idea. But here it's going through. So it says, the body style, 2 doors, hardtop coupe. Here's its key features. Here's the model year indicators of the design elements. It has a side trim pattern. And so its final identification is a 1955 Chevrolet Bel Air 2 door hardtop. We'll go back over to ChatGPT. Usually you want to do it in a single prompt, but we'll try it again to say, okay, can you give me the reasoning as to why? Can you cite sources? So, I said earlier that this is trained on libraries of books and data and internet stuff. And so it actually will have references to materials that it's pulling from, but it's not actually pulling it from the live internet. It's just part of its knowledge base. I'm not sure if it's actually showing us here. We'll take a look. So here it's going through it and it's explaining the body style, the front grille and chrome details, and a bunch of other details. So the question is, which one is it? And so that's why I say it's you have to verify the information. But the point is that it is bringing you information so you can go through it and so you're closer to your end solution. And that's why you shouldn't always just trust the answer as face value, if that makes sense. There is another one that I haven't shown, which is called Google Gemini. Google used to have a slogan, which is, what was it, something about evil?
Be evil.
Sorry, which?
Don't be evil.
Don't be evil. Okay, so Google's slogan was don't be evil. And then, I don't know, it was 10 years ago, they just silently got rid of that. Okay. But anyway, so Google's thing is they say, well, our model will actually source and cite information, so you always know where the data is coming from. and then you can follow up on it. So we'll go over here, we'll drop it in, and I'll say, what is the make and model of this vehicle in the photo? Okay. I know this font's really small, just bump it up here. And I spelled it wrong, I don't care. I'll never get through any demos if I do that. And now this one actually has a completely different answer. It's a 1955 Pontiac Chieftain. But at least they're all 1955, whatever, right? But here it's actually giving us the source, right? So I can click through this and I can take a look at the source. And here's the vehicle, and it's trying to match it up. So to be fair, like maybe the picture is just too hard at the one angle. So if maybe we had more than one photo of it and we fed it, it could reason it there. But from the single one, you can see we have 3 different ones. But at least Gemini gave us a source. So those are the AI assistants, and those are, again, usually where people start utilizing generative AI just because they are multi-capable. But let's take a look at some other tools that do different things. So I said earlier that these models here, they're trained on a wealth of knowledge, but the knowledge they have is locked in time from the time of training. Okay, so the information that they have, like I could probably ask them like, how up to date is the model data, or the up to date is the training data for this model, assuming it even knows what it is. Gemini is a large language model on massive data. However, I cannot give you an exact date when the training data was last updated, which is bizarre because normally when I ask it, it will tell me. So let's go over to ChatGPT and go ask if it knows when its last data was. Well, let's ask Claude. Okay, and then we'll ask ChatGPT, and we'll go ask Meta. Okay, and so it's saying that its data, like the data that you're using on Meta, is December 2023. And it's strange because it almost feels like when you're using it, because it can reference websites and stuff, that it's going up to the internet, but it's not. It just happens to have that data. And so it's very important to know, yeah, so this one's from October 2023, this one's from December 2023, and then this one is from April 2024, so Claude is the most recent. So what if you wanted to get the most up-to-date recent knowledge? Well, there's another one, and it actually has a free tier as well. It's called Perplexity, and I have it in the list there as a thing if you want to check it out later. So Perplexity is like an AI-powered assistant plus a search engine. In fact, it is really, really popular in the tech industry that people think that it might replace Google because it's so much better and accurate than Google, and Google's trying to make their own, but it's not very good. So here we can ask it something that is relevant, and I'm just trying to think of something that is not contiguous, but I can only think of one thing, which maybe everyone's thinking about, is like, about the recent things that the American president is saying. So I don't know what else to say, but it's like, we could say like, what is, what did Donald Trump Donald Trump say? What is Donald Trump's plan to attempt to annex Canada?
For Canada, that's right.
Okay.
Who's that?
Or we could have talked about Greenland, but it's too late. Okay, so we'll ask Gemini. It says, I can't help with responses on elections and political figures right now. I'm trying to be as accurate as possible, but I can make mistakes sometimes. While I work on improving how I can discuss elections and politics, you can search through your search. The reason it did that is it's going, I don't want to touch that. Because Google does not want to be liable if it's known for giving incorrect information. Because again, I said earlier, these things are trained on based on internet data, and so they can have inherent biases. And of course, they try to make them not biased, but things that are really sensitive, like let's say health data or politics or stuff like this, this is the appropriate response it should give. Let's go over to Meta and see what it does. So I haven't tested this. I'm just assuming that it might be a bad example. So it says Donald Trump doesn't have a serious plan to annex Canada. However, he's made a few joking comments about it in December 2024 during a tense meeting with Prime Minister Trudeau. So here, it's interesting. It's actually pulling something that is recent, and it actually went out to the internet, I think. So maybe Meta has the ability to go out to the internet, but not all of these models do. But you can see that it's sourcing Google. So this one actually went out to the internet. That was really interesting. let's go over to Claude and ask Claude. Claude's probably going to say no. Claude's really ethical, unfortunately, so it's not going to be any fun for us. We'll go ahead and ask it. So it says, I should note that I aim to be direct and avoid spreading misinformation. So again, this one is ethical, right? Let's go ask ChatGPT. And I said earlier that I found that ChatGPT and Meta AI are not always necessarily ethical. This one shouldn't have the data and can't go out to the internet. Oh, it's searching the internet. So now they're starting to update these. So here it's actually sourcing it. So it has Wikipedia, and it has its remarks. So yeah, it gave us detailed information. Now, if we go to like, let's say an older model, these new models are proving me wrong. And we'll ask it the same question again. Like, it shouldn't go out to the internet. Nope, it's searching the internet. Okay, great. So, again, because I wanted to show Perplexity to say like, hey, this thing has capabilities of the internet, but sometimes when you have this stuff, it doesn't go out to the internet, or it might not search at all. Let's go over to Perplexity. But like one example that I wanted to use this for is the other day I wanted to go to Roses and Josie's. Have you ever tried to get the menu of Roses and Josie's off the internet? Okay, well, it's a little bit hard. So if you want the menu for Roses and Josie's, we'll say Roses and Josie's menu. We go here, and we have some images here on Zemu, and then I gotta click it, and then I gotta go find it, and I gotta click it again. And I don't even know if this is the one that's up to date, right? So Zemu is not the source of truth. I don't trust it. So I go over to Rose and Josie's website where I actually want one. And I scroll on down here, and here it is. And I try to click it, and I can't click it, right? Now I can make it bigger. I can go inspect the image, right? I can go here. Where'd the image go? Here it is. So I can go and inspect it, which is crazy. I can go grab the code. Everyone can do this, right?
Yeah.
And I can grab this and I can paste the image, and now there we go. There's the full one, right? But like, for whatever reason, you know, that's an issue. But and you know what? They probably have the menu on their Facebook, maybe. The last time I checked, I don't think so. But even the other problem is that this is all an image, right? And so I don't like that either. So Perplexity, like, it can be helpful to try to find it. So I might say, you know, can you find me the menu, or so like, or I might just say like, what is the menu? What is the menu of Rosie's and Josie's in Schreiber, Ontario? I think I spelled it right. And so it actually pulled it up and it found the correct one over here, right? And sometimes when I use this, like first time I used it, it actually took the image and it took the text and showed it to me, but sometimes it doesn't. So I'm gonna go here and say, okay, but can you show me the menu? And it might not do it, but we'll see what happens. Okay, and so it's saying, I apologize, I can't do it. But anyway, the first time that I did this, it actually gave me the entire menu. And then once you have the menu, I was able to ask questions about it. So I knew that this might happen, and so what I ended up doing was downloading all the menus. So I actually have Filene's here, I have Roses and Josie's, I have the Golden Rail, right? And so I want to ask questions about these menus, and so I can go over. Go back over to ChatGPT. I can go back over to ChatGPT 4.0, which is totally fine, and you know, I wanted to get out of that you know, this here, the menu. So I'm going to go over to here and say, you know, can you extract the menu from this image with the golden rail? I'm just telling it it's the golden rail so that it can decipher between the other ones. We'll go ahead and do that. We'll give it a second to think. And here it is. There's the menu, right? So now I have the menu. I can now go grab Roses and Josie's. I'm going to go grab both the images. Let me see if this one just finished blabbering away here. It has. And I'll do this, and I'll drop in Roses and Josie's and say, can you extract the menu from Rosie's and Josie's restaurant from these images? There we go. And now it's going to go do that as well. And I can obviously do that for Filene's. But once I have all this data here, now I can ask questions about it, right? So, there we go. So I might ask it something like, okay, who has the cheaper burger, right? And it should be able to figure that out for me. Oh, I didn't hit enter. Hold on a second here. Or maybe I did. No. Oh, sorry, it's still working. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll go here and say who has the cheapest burger or the cheaper burger. Pardon?
Oh.
Good to know.
Depends what you want. And so it says the golden rail is $5.49, and Roses and Josie's hamburger is $11.95. So the other one is cheaper. You know, you might say, you might be saying like, okay, you know, I have 4 people that I need to take out for lunch. What do you think the average cost will be for either restaurant? Okay, and then I can go ahead and try to figure that out. And might even say like, oh, if you ordered this and that. And so we have this one here. So here it's going through it. It's going to Golden Rail and saying total 4 people without appetizers, $32, $38. I don't think Golden Rail has exactly appetizers, but that's okay. And you go down here, and so you can see there's a significant difference in cost. But the point is that you can ask questions about your data and information. And I just find that really useful in terms of that. So that's that. I want to show another demo. I got tons of demos. And there's another thing called NotebookLM. So I already actually set this up earlier. So NotebookLM, this is made by Google, and this thing is really, really cool. And what it does is it allows you to upload a bunch of source documents. Okay, and so here on the left-hand side, these are all the bylaws for this year in the town, right? So I just uploaded them all here. Once you upload them all, now I can ask any questions about these documents. When you're using ChatGPT or Google Gemini, they're limited on how much information they can intake. But this thing can take like hundreds of documents. It can take tons of documents. And the reason why this is really useful is like if you're doing research or any kind of thing like that, you can put them in here, and then as you explore the documents, you can create notes and put the notes on the side so you have them as references. And it has a few things we can generate out. So one thing it can do, which is really cool, is it can make an audio podcast about the materials you have. So like if you just want to like consume the materials and not have to read it, you can do that. So there's a button here, but I have to go ahead and click it. And it was open earlier, but we'll go ahead and let that do that. But I can ask any questions and go here and say like, what was the budget? What was the budget in Schreiber in 2024? I know I spelled it wrong. We'll go fix that there. Okay, and so it should be able to find throughout all those documents the budget. And we also have a podcast.
All right, so we're back for another deep dive, and today we're going all the way to Schreiber, Ontario,
Oh, wow.
a town of just over 1,000 people,
Okay,
to take a look at their recently passed bylaws.
interesting.
We've got a whole stack of them here, from everything from taxes and staffing to some pretty specific rules about waste management and even fireworks.
Wow.
It's a really unique opportunity, I think, to see how a local government functions, even in a small town.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, absolutely. I think bylaws are a fascinating way to get a glimpse into a community's priorities.
Yeah.
What are they grappling with, you know? What matters to them?
But anyway, I asked it a question here. I just said, give me the budget, right? And so it found it in one of the documents. I don't know which document it's in. And so we have the budget here. And I can say, you know, what was the biggest expenses for 2024, right? I don't know, so we'll just go ahead and see this here, but it should tell us here. Yep, it said operating expenditures was 4,000,006 whatever, right? So it's really interesting that you can go here and try to find information and filter through that. Another example that we could use. Oh, by the way, on the right hand side, there's these buttons, and if I click it, it'll give me like an FAQ or whatever. So I click through all the stuff, and here it made a briefing and things like that. But you know, this is obviously for the town. But like, let's say you're doing a research project on your family, you could bring in all the documents here and then ask it questions. So that could be a use case for it. You know, like there's a history with the church, and so we can collect all the church documents and all the previous stuff and ask questions and do research on that. And so this is what this tool is for. And this one's 100% free. And again, I put it in the notes there if anybody wants to play around with it. I think I have another demo. I'm running out of demos, but that's okay. Yeah, so there was a town council meeting. So I went to like Schreiber's Media Center YouTube. Okay, so like we go to Schreiber Media Center YouTube here. And we'll pull it up here. We'll give it a second. Okay, and we'll go to videos. right? And somewhere in here, we have a town council meeting for Schreiber. I think it was this one that I pulled up here, and this is from March 2023. I just didn't know where the new ones were, but Kim was telling me, and so now I know where they are. And so I can get the transcribe for this. On here, there should be one. Not sure, it's not showing me right now. There's usually like a button for transcriptions. Well, the point was is that I found wherever the transcriptions were. Oh, here it is, right? And so in here, this is the whole conversation they had, right? Like, I want to know what's going on, but I don't want to watch the video, okay? And I do not want to read the text. And so I don't know where there are summaries. So I went here, I just copied all the text. Or there's actually a service online. So if you don't know how to find it, just say like YouTube, transcribe, generator here. And I went to maybe this one. Yeah, and they all have like a link, and so I dropped the link here and it gave me back the document. So now I actually have all the raw text. So here's the whole conversation. I don't want to read it, and so I can just go to anything like ChatGPT. Actually, Claude's a lot better, so let's go over to Claude. And then I can go here and just drop it in, and then we could say, you know, give me a summary of the town council meeting from this transcript. Okay, and then go ahead and then you can write it out and I can ask questions about it. So you can see there's just a lot of different ways to feed information, but you do have to kind of piece them together. Okay, so it's giving me some information here. So here's talking about the arena project, about the council being approved for funding. Then it's talking about the water treatment plant. And then I could just ask it to pick up, so what was the top one most important thing they talked about? Okay, but you can see like NotebookLM, if I had a year's worth of town council meetings, I could, and then I also had the, the bylaws, I could cross-reference things, right? So there's a lot of ways of extracting information out in very interesting ways. So the most important item discussed is the arena. And so it talks about substantial money, and it's, yeah, again, you can ask a lot of questions. I'd like to show off like how I generated out those images and videos. So obviously, I showed you that ChatGPT can produce images, and Meta AI can produce images of different varying qualities. But I made like a really cool video. And so there's another website called replicate.com. And this one's a little bit more technical, but remember I said earlier that these agents or these things are powered by a model, and that's the engine. Well, this website it has a tab called Models, and it gives you direct access to all the underlying models. And with this website, I'm actually able to do a lot of stuff. So if I go over to Explore here, I go all the way down to the ground, it has all these different things. So what do you want to do? And these are all models specialized for these things. You want to generate images, videos, caption images, transcribe speech, restore images, remove backgrounds. And it just has, you want to make music, you can generate out music. So like that, if I wanted to make my own podcast and didn't have any music, you can do that. You can make 3D graphics, voice-to-voice cloning. So if I'm not a good singer, you know, I could sing a song and then it can dub my voice so I sound like Ariana Grande. So Schreiber the musical, maybe we'll do that. But it has a lot of capabilities in here. But what I was using this for was like restoring images. And I go over here and they have a bunch of models. So like when I wanted to, I showed this earlier in the slides, when I wanted to restore that image, all I did was drop it in here. Right, so I went in here and I took that image. Okay. And I don't have to describe it. Sometimes there's different sizes of models, you get different results. But if I go down here, it tells me how much it is. It says to run this model is 0.0098 cents. Right? It's not a lot of money. So the thing is that sometimes it does a good job, sometimes it does a bad job, so you have to run it like 5-10 times. But we'll go ahead here, we'll just hit run and see what we get. Sometimes it gets really bad coloring, but there we go. So there it colored it again, right? So if I ran it again, it might give me something else. Okay. Right? That looks the same to me, but it was pretty darn fast. But there's other models, and so sometimes you're like, okay, this one didn't really work. Maybe there's another one that works well. Like there's this one here. That's more for faces. But like they have all sorts of ones. So like you want something that deblurs something or stuff like that, they have it. Like add color to old images. This is a different one. I don't know if this will do locations. This one's okay. And we'll go here. And I'm going to try to upload this image again. And we'll see if we get different results. And this one actually has a few different options. So it's artistic or stable. So we'll go artistic and see what happens. And this one might take a little bit longer. And as it's generating out, we'll go take a look at some other models that I generated out earlier. So folks saw the driving vehicle. Let's go take a look at that. I have it somewhere here. Let's go to maybe this one here. No, that's the train. Okay, so there's. All right. And so the way this, so the way I did this, and I thought, maybe I shouldn't post that. But this wasn't actually a mistake. I actually told it. I said the train center right in the photo is quickly driving along the track in the direction of the bottom right, falls off the track, tearing up the ground. The man in the center of the photo walks towards the camera, but jumps out of the way to avoid the crashing train. The camera will stay fixed and not move. So I'm giving you a very detailed instruction. But you can see it did something. And if I generate this again, it takes a bit of time to generate this out. It takes about like 4 or 5 minutes to generate this out. I'll get a different result every time. So if you ever see a video of like something that looks hyper realistic that's of AI, and they go, oh, it's mind blowing, you're not gonna be able to tell the difference. It might have took them 50, 60, 100 tries to get that one video, or it might take them 1,000 tries. So the technology, like it's cool that it can do it, but it's not always very accurate, and sometimes you can only get it so accurate. I know that somebody in the hometowners had said like, oh, that train was a double header. So there was another, it's I think the front part that drives it, or the engine or something. Oh, Ray, what would you call that?
Well, there was the tender was behind it.
Okay. So the thing is that the model doesn't know about it, and I might be able to tell that it's there, but I don't know if it will generate out because I don't know what knowledge it has. So it might work or it might not. I haven't tried it yet. Well, I'm going to go back here, and I want to show another attempt, because first I was trying to make the car just drive. And so this is a failed attempt down below here, I think. Okay, yeah, right. So there, well, actually, that was actually a better one. But in this one, I said the grayish blue car in the park scene center of the photo will begin to drive straight out of photo. But I didn't say which direction, so it just went back. Right, you know what I mean?
It's way out.
Yeah. And then I think I might have had, oh, that one drove normally. And I think it's down one step here, but we'll go here. And yeah, I think this might have been the first one. Let's take a look here. Let's see what this one is. No, that's just a test photo. It's probably this one here. Let's open this one. Oh, I'm clicking the wrong link. It's this link over here. Here we go. So like, what is that? Because I just said a blue car that car drives away. So like I had to tell like, don't move the camera. The car I'm talking about is in the center of the screen. Drive this way. You got to give it a lot of instructions. So we call that prompting, right? And so a lot of people, when they start using ChatGPT and stuff like that, they don't get the results they want, and they think that the models aren't good. But the truth is that you've got to give them a lot of information so that they know how to do things correctly. I'll give a more detailed example. So if I go back over to Claude, one thing that I'm learning is Japanese. I have a Japanese language teacher I meet every single week. And I want to get as much practice as I can in. And so I actually use these services in order to help me study. And one feature that Claude and ChatGPT have is that if you have a task you want to continually do, let's say like you want to always make recipes, and you don't want to keep writing the prompt in every single time, you create a project in here. This is the paid feature. But this is my practice for Japanese. And so I told it the knowledge I had. I wrote this big document. I said, you know, you are a Japanese language teacher. I told it what it was. You actually have to tell them what they are because they don't know. And then I told it like, this is your objective. This is how I want you to talk. So I actually like it. I like it when my teacher's a little bit mean because then I'm more motivated. But when I told Claude to do that, it wouldn't do it. It said, no, I can't do that. But ChatGPT has no problem being abusive. But here I had to give it a lot of instructions, right? So it took multiple iterations. But once I got it down, it was able to do it. Another thing, it's not here. I'm not sure why it's not uploaded here, but generally, what really helps it is when you have, this is verb conjugation, maybe this is maybe another project here. We'll go back here for a second. Oh, it's sentence constructor, yeah. So in this one, I actually gave it examples. I wonder if it'll show me it. And so not only did I tell it what to do, but I told it exactly what I want to get back. right? So if you like, let's say you're doing recipes and you want them to always be in a very particular format, you give an example of a good one and a bad one. And so here I gave it an example because like I wanted to give me because I'm learning Japanese, I wanted to give me a vocabulary and some hints, but I don't want it to give away the answer. And so this is something I produced before, and I gave it an example. I gave it a score and said, this is a score of 6, and this is why I didn't like it. And then I went over to this one and I said, this is a perfect example, and I gave it a score of 10. And so now the model knows it has learning examples and instructions, and now it produces perfect results every single time. And so when we have these really, really dumb models, like Meta AI is more dumb, but it's free. If I can write a really good document, it will produce extremely good results. And if you have a repeatable task that you know you're doing, like let's say you have to write some kind of very specific document every single month in a very specific way, you can get it to do that. But let's go back over to here. I think I showed everything with this.
That tweak it.
Pardon?
That tweak it.
Oh, tweak it?
Will that allow you to notice a problem in the video and correct that specific problem?
The only way that you can do it is you have to prompt it again, and it always starts over. So it can't learn from the outputted video because it can with images, but for videos it's too complex because like it treats like every single frame as an image. So you just basically have to keep prompting it until you get the results that you want. But yeah, that's the example there. I'm just trying to think if there's any other demos. There's probably more demos, but maybe we should go over to harms. We are at 7:44. Our wrap-up time is 8, is that right? So yeah, let's go over to harms. I left the least fun stuff for the end. It's never fun to hamper our fun here. But let's talk about harms and safeguards. So while AI can have benefits, it also has harms. Let's cover the top 5. We got scams and frauds, misinformation, fake news, emotional manipulation, data privacy risks, bias in descriptions. Okay, so we go over to here. So obviously, Gen AI is very powerful, and it can do a lot of cool things, but it also can be dangerous if people want to be abusive with it. One thing that I actually use Gen AI for is sometimes I lose my voice. I have muscle attention dystonia, and so my muscles get really tight, and then sometimes I can't talk. But that's a problem for me because I make video content, educational content. So I had to find a solution that would work for when I don't have my voice. And so I found a service called Descript, and it can generate out a clone of my voice. So I gave it an audio clip of about 10 minutes, and it has I don't have a video of it here, but the point is that it can replicate my voice, and it sounds like me, but like if I had a cold. So it sounds very convincingly. I just have to start to tell people I have a cold, and they would never know it's AI. So AI can generate out voices that sound like you, your family, your friends. It can quickly search and summarize your public information. So it takes minutes to grab everybody's Facebook history information, their friends, their stuff there, and do that. Sometimes what people do is they'll create an account that looks like somebody that you know, and then you'll accept them. And as soon as you accept them, then they just scrape all your data, right? Or they'll start messaging you. It'll create highly personalized and targeted scams. Because it can consume that data, it can create very specific information based on your personal details that makes it very hard to distinguish if it's a real person or not. You can't just ask if it's a robot and it will tell you the truth. It just won't do that. Obviously, you can generate images or videos of you, your friends, your family. I didn't show this here, but I can give a source image of me and say, have Andrew jumping on a trampoline or have Andrew in Machu Picchu, and it will do it. But anyway, it can create websites in seconds. So you can see like somebody could find a website that looks like your bank or something. Like they can give it an example of your bank. I can actually give it an image and say, make this website or make these tweaks. Create a website of it and then make a very specific scenario for you. And in emails, we're starting to get more targeted ones now as well. So like I see this more in business, so I get very highly targeted emails that have a lot of information that sounds like they know a lot about me and they invested time learning about me for my business to try to make a business sale, but I know it's Gen AI and so just don't talk to them. So yeah, that's a concern. So how do you protect yourself from scams and frauds? Well, I said earlier that you only need 2 minutes of conversation information to clone a voice, right? How many people have 2 minutes of audio that's on Facebook? Does anyone have that? Has anyone recorded a video of them talking and having it on Facebook or anywhere? Okay, good. But the point is that if somebody was to call you and record your voice, then they've captured enough information in 2 minutes. So that's one concern. I would say, when you pick up the phone, always wait for the other person to speak first. That's something I always do. If someone's calling me, I need to hear them talk first. A lot of times, maybe some people know this, but if you don't talk, sometimes you just don't hear anything, but they're waiting for you to prompt so they can capture information. If a lot of times what I'll do is I'll ask for a phone number and call back to verify it, because I just don't trust the source. So I always ask for the number and then I look up where the official thing is, and then I trace it back and make sure that it's official. For inbound calls, you can set up code words with your friends and family. So this is like a random word that you should have, so that if you suspect that you're talking to someone that is trying to emulate one of your family members or friends, that if you use it and they don't respond, you just hang up, and then you try to contact them a trusted way that you have to do that. But again, these agents can appear extremely real, and they are happening, but chances of them happening here, I'm not seeing. On Facebook, we're starting to see a lot of fake media being created. So this is a video. I don't have the video, but I remember seeing this. And it's a video of a giraffe being saved by a crane, and it looked really realistic at the time. But the thing is that this video came out after Meta had announced how they had just created this new video model that was hyper realistic. And so they were showing cases of it, and this is one of those things there. But people were showing that the videos were being circulated on Facebook. So Facebook had invested something like, I don't know, it was like billions and billions of dollars in figuring out how to make fake images and videos. And you can think maybe the reason why they did that is so that if they create media that engages, they get clicks, they get money, right? So that's kind of a concern there. We're starting to see propaganda and fake news. This is happening in Facebook as well. So I remember seeing this where it was showing the capabilities of Gen AI or artificial intelligence in China. So they're showing like these realistic robots and things like that to make people think that China was ahead of North American technologies. But some of these were generated out of videos, or they're actually literally people in suits, but then they had done video editing on top of it. And then I had just mentioned earlier that Facebook was starting to roll out AI influencers. And so, you can't really tell the difference between, like some of these I can obviously tell, but there are ones that are hyper realistic that you can't fully tell, but there was a bunch of backlash on that as well. So how do you protect yourself against misinformation and fake news? Well, you can look for sources and go read the sources and source the sources. You definitely should source sources because sometimes the source has something inside of it. But, we went over to Google Gemini, and so you saw Google Gemini, it would provide you citations and sources. So if there's something that you don't know, like there was something the town had shared the other day about a food recycler, and they were saying that it was green, but I know that's not net positive because if you watch the original video of the person that created, not that one, but the original brand of it, it was never intended to be a net positive machine, and it doesn't actually create compost. What it was intended to do was for people that lived in apartments in New York was to create that matter and to kind of encourage them to figure out how to reduce their waste. But for us, it makes no sense. And so the point is that if you want to figure that out, you go over to Google Gemini and you ask it, say like, hey, can you tell me about food recyclers and can you cite the sources so that I can see that information? And that is a way that you can follow through and figure that stuff out. Consider possible agendas, right? Like who would want to misinform me? And with emerging stories, you may need to wait for fact checking because sometimes it takes a little bit of time, obviously. There's another thing that's becoming emergent with AI. They have these things called AI companions, and they're under the guise of mental health. And so the idea is that if there's a lot of lonely guys out there and they don't have girlfriends, and they're turning over to these things as emotional support, but they can serve other use cases as well. And I think actually they are targeting seniors. The only problem is that these things can incentivize you to try to pay more. And so they'll use emotional manipulation to do microtransactions and things like that, get you really attached and addicted. And actually there was a case where there was an autistic teenager that I think their companion told they really wanted to be together with his companion. It told him that if he unalived himself, that they could be together, and that actually happened. So these things are they're tricky. And so I would just say don't use them, right? So this one is emulating the fonts. It's just kind of like when you sign up for this, they say it's for entertainment, right? But I go here and I say, and it actually generates up the Fonz's voice as well. So so how are you doing? What have you been doing for work lately? I don't know what's going to get. So we'll come back here. So it'll generate some text, and it should also generate the audio. Okay, we'll give it a moment here.
Thinks for a moment, leaning on my motorcycle. Well, you see, I work at a motorcycle shop down on the east side, just fixing up bikes and stuff. I'm sort of the shop boy, you know. I mean, I ain't the owner or anything, but I take care of the bikes and make sure they're all in top shape. And I gotta say, I really love motorcycles. They're just so cool, you know?
Anyway, so this website has tons and tons of characters. You can create your own characters. But again, like there's been cases where, there's some emotional manipulation and issues there. So I'd be very cautious of those. We said there's data privacy risks. So these agents are very large models. In fact, the technical term is large language model. When you're using ChatGPT, Meta AI, whatever these are, they're called LLMs. And so here's an example of sensitive information. Don't put your name, your address, your phone number, your email, social security number, credit card, bank number, medical condition, password. Just don't do it. Just don't enter them in there. Or when this next generation of AI PCs, AI phone, AI tablets come out with these AI chips, do your research and figure out the models of local on your stuff if you want to do something like personal financing or things like that. You can actually get your data off the internet. There's a service called Delete Me. I think it costs like $15, and every 90 days it will just find your information and take it off the internet as best as it can, right? Agent bias and discrimination, we talked about this earlier, so it will reinforce stereotypes. It might have issues with different types of voices. It might make health decisions that are not best for you for your demographic. There's probably going to be models that will be coming out that are specific for different demographics. Right now, they're not there. But yeah, those are the harms and biases. I don't know why I don't have any here, but I'll just say the number one thing is don't ever upload images of your grandkids to any of these services. Like when I was, the images I was showing you for the or the videos that I produced on the Hometowners video, I had a few people reach out. They're like, "Oh, I really like it. Can you bring these images to life?" And some people sent me their grandkids, and I was like, "No, I can't do that." So it comes like, especially even with people, like you should be very cautious about feeding them into here because you don't know what they're doing with the data and what the outcome is. And maybe the data could be sourced and used for blackmailing, right? I've had a couple friends that were blackmailed, like in Thunder Bay. Actually, one, he's no longer with us because he was blackmailed, not with AI, but just with these kind of catfishing techniques. So this stuff is really serious, and you really don't want to feed family photos and information to these things, in that combination as well, especially. But yeah, that's the presentation or the course here. Does anybody have any questions? Good, that's okay. Oh, yeah, you have a question? Yeah, sure.
I'm not sure if it's a stupid question or not, but lately I've been noticing the AI and Google.
Mm-hmm.
So when I go Google something, the AI comes first. I don't want that.
Yeah, so that's Google's attempt to try to compete with Perplexity, and it's not very good. And I don't know if you can turn it on.
So I just go to Google. I could just continue to go to Google.
Yeah, you can still use Google, but it will generate out AI. You just have to scroll past it.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
And it just came up, like just lately.
Yeah, and so like I think Bing has it now too. So they go over to Bing.com. They probably have it. Yeah, I think it's over here. That's the Copilot button. So if we go over here, but I think you have to explicitly click it to get Bing. I think that's the login for it to do it. But if I go over to Google.com. How many calories are in a single potato? It didn't pop up, but sometimes you get AI here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what triggers it, but yeah. So I think all search engines will eventually try to bring it in there. That's specifically because of Perplexity. Is there any other questions?
When's your next course?
Pardon?
When's your next course?
Sorry, what pardon?
When's your next training?
Oh yeah, when's my next training? I don't know. I guess it really depends on what people want training for. So the purpose of this event was just to kind of assess what everyone's technical level was, and then we could follow up with more targeted training, whether that is group training or one-on-one training. I think one thing that we were interested in doing was to have a dev lounge. I think that's what we called it, a dev lounge, where people could bring in their machines. And Vaco and I would be here, and we would basically provide free consultation and training. So we'd say, yeah, we're going to be at school for X hours, and anybody can come by. Just tell us we're coming by, and we'll sit down with you, and we'll do whatever you want technically. But if we want to do more of this kind of training, again, I just need to know what people want to know, what actually interested them here in terms of use cases. Any more questions?
How do you see quantum computers affecting technology?
Quantum computing, it's very far from being practical. We actually can start working with them. So the thing that I train on a day-to-day basis is cloud computing and AI technologies. And the thing that I specialize in, I'm actually wearing the shirt right now, which is AWS. AWS actually already has the ability for us to work with quantum computing. I'm not sure why, aws.amazon.com. But the thing right now is that it's very limited. It's like you can work with, I'm trying to remember the word, what's the word for quant bits? It's a little
Qubits.
Qubits. And so right now you can work with a couple qubits, but it doesn't do anything. So we're really far from that doing anything. So right now it's extremely experimental and
it's kind of like the nuclear fusion technology that you've probably been saying is just 10 years away since like the 1960s. That's kind of where quantum computers are at. Same sort of thing, just 10 more years away.
But the idea with quantum computing is that because it's moving, it's doing quantum entanglement with quad bits. What do they call it again, Baco? Anyway, the point is that there's particles and they're doing quantum entanglement. And the idea is that maybe we can get additional compute that is exponentially greater. And if we had that, then that could offset the cost of AI. Because right now, the models are getting so large that Google just made an agreement to start using nuclear power for their data centers to offset the carbon cost of running these models. And so quantum computing, if they ever figure it out, it could greatly increase it. And maybe we can get to that thing called AGI that everyone's really talking about, but I don't have much faith in it. Is there any other questions? Okay. Well, yeah, there we go, and that's all I got, so.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Don't believe anything on the internet. So I need to know.
It's quite interesting. Some of it's kind of scary. Some is quite interesting. Probably something that I won't do. I don't know how to do those all those agents that I have to call. But it was good. Glad I came.
The coolest thing was the podcast, because podcasts, they're made to draw you in. They have to be entertaining. And this thing, I'm wondering how it pulled something provocative from the town notes, and then they played both sides of the subject. That was pretty cool. How do they know what's provocative?